This is easily one of the top 5 most essential components of Jimi Hendrix's guitar style. He uses this approach to combine rhythm and lead guitar styles together, melding them into one, like in Little Wing. Right off the bat from the very start of Bold as Love. The opening section of The Wind Cries Mary. Compositions where it might not even be as obvious, but it is the approach, like in Burning of the Midnight Lamp. And other famous, brilliant, iconic guitar parts like he plays on Castles Made of Sand. He was heavily influenced by Curtis Mayfield from the Impressions, and he's working out of triads. You can also think about it in terms of major pentatonic scales, but my experience has been people don't want to practice their scales if I tell them to. So keep this really simple right now. Just take a triad. Let's go up to A. Bold as Love is in A. And we'll just take the triad on the top 3 strings, A major. I want you to think about each single note in the triad, not even in terms of chord tones right now. Just keep this really simple. You're going to think about each note that's contained as a balancing act. What Jimi will do then is deviate from those notes that are already in the triad, and depending on which note it is, he might go in a couple different directions. If we were here in that triad we just played on the top 3 strings, the lowest note of the triad could go either direction. He might go up, and then return back home. Or many times he would break the shape so that the hand position looks different, but the equilibrium point's the same. For example, if you were to go into this note, from underneath it, 2 frets, you would have to reposition your fingers, maybe only play 2 notes. But even though the hand looks different, you're going to arrive at the same notes because you're going to hammer on to what was the lowest note in this shape. To get there, we'll have only 2 strings, 2 frets, and you move this note up. You want to do that while also striking the 2nd string. So now, just on the 3rd string with 1 triad shape only, keeping that idea of the center point in the balance, you can either go up and back, or you can lead into it. Stay in this exact same position we're centered around, this A triad here. On the 2nd string, in this shape, we'll only go up. It'll never go back. Just up 2 frets. And then you'll probably want to return home. The unspoken prerequisite here is that you want a really strong left hand to have strong hammer-ons and pull-offs. Provided that you have that, the rest of it's pretty simple. He's not doing any virtuoso stuff. Other than that, he was a rhythmic genius and had a lot of tone in his hands and a brilliant right hand for rhythm guitar. The way he would touch the guitar was perfect. Even though the triad is the starting point, you don't want to be playing 3 notes when you're doing these kind of moves. You want to be playing primarily only 2 strings. So when you do this, the sound is the top 2 strings. It's not holding down the note on the bottom of the triad on the 3rd string and doing that. That's just not what Jimi was doing. Just do the 2 strings. When you get to the top string, the exact same motion. You're not going to go back at all. You're just going to go up, and then a lot of times back. If you put that all together, you can get... And if you wanted to finish the phrase, go up there. And then you'd want to end that phrase out of probably some other kind of positioning with some kind of other triad. But I want to keep this really basic. So just with 1 triad, you're starting the process. Things like Little Wing has a lot of minor chords. So even though he's playing full chords, that chord is E minor 7. In each chord, he's working around the triad notes that are the strong chord tones, and those are the balance points. The E minor 7 triad is more than we want to get into, not because it's difficult, but to make better sense of it, it gets into concepts that might be a little bit beyond the audience for this particular video. And if you're interested in that stuff, I've got other videos on superimposed triads. E minor 7 is really just a G major triad with an E in the bass. So Jimmy's using the same notes that would be like in a G major triad. He doesn't know this, he's not thinking about this. Jimmy was not a guy that went to school and studied music theory, but intrinsically, he was playing all the great stuff. So from the top note in that shape, he's going up 2 frets and then back. And then from the bottom note in that shape, he's going underneath, leading in. The balance points are the 3 notes that form the triad. And after that, the rest of it is just like a teeter-totter, and you go one way or the other way depending on which string you're on. If you were to take this basic concept and begin working with it purely in terms of shapes, and then apply the bare minimum of knowledge about chord tones and what that means, and learning what is a major third, you'll find that he likes a lot of times to hammer on to major thirds. So for example, that's what he was doing in The Wind Cries Mary. The triad shape, though, was different set of strings. This is a really good case for learning your triads up and down the fingerboard on all your string sets. The same concepts apply. Put it together and you've got... Somebody else would tell you you need to learn about inversions. Yeah, you definitely should. There's a lot of value to practical music theory that you can use to make music with. But to just get started, even if you don't know what an inversion even is, that shape becomes a springboard for all kinds of classic Hendrix moves. On something that's more concealed, like the burning of the midnight lamp, Jimmy is still moving primarily through strong chord tones that are approached from very near on the fingerboard. And he was leading into and out of those triads and connecting chords through the circle of fifths. Other times he would stray away from the triad and go for more pretty upper extensions, but that's getting way beyond what we're getting into right here today in this simple video. Just start working with one basic shape. Any triad that you know, the more you know the better, and every triad that you learn on the guitar, start to apply this concept with. The thing that I hope is so obvious that you may not think about it, but you realize it, is that once you start doing this, things get a lot busier and the line between rhythm and lead guitar fades away. You're essentially playing rhythm lead. This was really great in the context that Jimmy was working in with the trio, although he was a brilliant rhythm guitar player, and in no way whatsoever do I intend to insinuate this was his entire rhythm guitar shtick. He could play so much more, so many more styles of rhythm guitar. He could fit perfectly into a larger group when it was time to play a lot less and to blend in, or when it was time to play more, he could go ahead and get busier. That's the benchmark and the standard for any great guitar player. What I would do if I was starting out with this kind of an approach and wanted to develop that vocabulary on the guitar is pretty simple and pretty basic. I would do 2 things. One, when it was time to actually go and woodshed and practice, I would start looking for the triads and applying these moves to the triads, experimenting with where it works and where it doesn't. I can't cover all the triads in one short video, but it'll get you started with that shape, and you can extend it to the other shapes that you'll learn on the other strings. But in addition to just practicing, I would start learning really good licks by your favorite players. And in this bag of guitar playing, it's Jimmy and Curtis Mayfield. So listen to Jimmy and Curtis Mayfield, and through a combination of hearing and seeing, you start to naturally have a feel for this stuff. It takes work, you gotta practice, but part of the practicing is listening. So listen, 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 and then just play. Play a lot of guitar, enjoy the process, and have fun with the new approaches that you're learning along the way. I'm sincerely trying to build this into something that's cool for all of us, and an alcove, and a really positive, helpful, constructive space for people who love the guitar like I love the guitar. So if you've enjoyed it, pass the memo along that this exists, and we'll try to keep building this community one by one. Thanks for your time, thank you for watching, and I'll see you again the next time.